Today I want to talk about how good was Rahul Dravid. This video essay is a tale of two halves. The first one being taken from Wikipedia and the other sources, since I was too young to remember anything. And the second half when Rahul Dravid became the person I looked up to for cricket and in life. Rahul Dravid started his international career after being very consistent in domestic circuit in 1996. Even though he was previously chosen for the squad in 94, his debut performance is still known to this day, making a very solid 95 against England and Lords, while coming in at number 7 and walked after edging the ball rather than waiting for the umpire to tell what the decision it was. True Rahul Dravid fashion. These were the two things that will characterize his career, about being flexible while making sacrifices for the team for a very long time. While stabilizing himself in the next 2 years in Test cricket, he could not do the same for ODI format and began to be known as someone who was really known for his defensive technique, but at the same time, no one really respected his one-day international form. After being sent out at number 7 and 6, he was promoted to number 3. He was started being recognized as a force to deal with, making 852 runs in 12 matches in 96-97 season. But while that happened, he was still struggling with his ODI performances. We all knew someone who was called as Dravid while playing cricket because he couldn't play the bigger shot. But he really raised the bar during the 96 Friendship Series against Pakistan, played in Toronto, which were played in very challenging tracks, scoring 220 runs at the average of 44. But as time went on, Dravid was being seen more and more as a trusted specialist, to the surprise of no one. But he started turning on the wheels as World Cup 1999 approached and India badly needed someone who could anchor the innings. Dravid came out there as top scorer in the whole tournament, 460 runs in 8 games at the average of 65.85 and a strike rate of whopping 85. We're talking about 1999, just so you know. That was a huge deal. This is where Dravid put himself as one of the regulars in the Indian team, despite India not doing particularly well at the World Cup. From there, he was appointed the vice captaincy in 2000 with Sourav Ganguly as the captain, a reign that lasted from 2000 to Greg Chappell. He was seen as Mr. Dependable and along with John Wright and Ganguly set to reform the Indian team as one of the best sides in the planet. Then came the career-defining innings at Eden Gardens, which every Indian has heard about through the years. Steve Waugh's Australia team had an unbreakable will and was coming back with 15 consecutive wins, which got changed to 16 after the first test. India were all out for 171 in the first innings and had a 274 deficit compared to Australia. Lakshman, who was playing one spin really well by stepping up and taking a back step, playing him properly, was sent out at number 3 while Dravid was sent at number 6. And India were at some point 234-4. And Australia were probably waiting a collapse to happen. But that didn't really happen, as we all know. From there on, both the veterans combined 376 runs for the fifth wicket, VVS scoring 281 and Dravid scoring 180. India went on to bowl out Australia inside 70 overs out of 75 available on the last day, where Harbhajan had a huge hand and the biggest turnaround ever seen in cricketing history, and even defeated Australia again in the third test, winning the series 3-1. After that, Dravid started keeping wickets because Nanan Mongia was a bit unreliable with the bat, and he even got the man of the series in the test matches that followed, scoring 602 runs at the average of 100.33. When I think about 2003 World Cup, Dravid was the most dependable player, but he was still being used as utility. He would come in at number 5 and Yuvraj would follow him in number 6, and then from there on they would just carry the innings, finish it really well. I remember all the matches where Sehwag, Sachin and Ganguly provided India with the perfect start. Nehra bowling at 140 clicks and the graphic of the stupid leopard thingy on screen. And the last thing I remember is Dravid and Yuvraj closing the innings. From there on, Dravid was handed the captaincy when Ganguly wasn't available and made the decision to declare the innings while Sachin was at 194, not out, and wanted to have a bowl at Pakistan batsman for the last hour while Sachin was taking a very long time to get to his 200. This obviously created a lot of issues in India due to how Sachin was worshipped, among other things. India as a whole had a very unfortunate 2007 World Cup where Bangladesh beating them in the group stage meant India couldn't even get out of the group stage. And this was where Dravid gave up his captaincy, since the next generation of youngsters were in the picture. Dhoni was a huge admirer of having players who were fitter and started them, and that created a whole new revolution. After playing brilliantly once again in West Indies, India toured England with the contention of being number one ranked team in the world. But he was the only batsman in the whole Indian team who could weather the English weather and the storm in a series that India lost 0-4. Some of us remember it fondly. India didn't really do well in any of the matches. Dravid even went on to carry his bat since he had to open in some innings, and he scored a total of 460 runs in 4 matches, which was more than quarter of the whole team's score. He was included in the T20 and ODI squad versus England, even though he hadn't played ODI in a long time, but he hadn't declared his retirement, so he was included. But he decided to retire right after the T20 and the ODIs. But he also went out in style. He scored a solid 69 out of 79. I remember he only had two or three boundaries, but his strike rate was pretty nice, and he hit Smith Patel for 3 consecutive 6s in the last T20. But right from one humiliating Test series for Indians, they went on to the next one in Australia. But this time, the wall was not the wall anymore. He consistently got bowled versus Australian young seamers Pat Cummins, Pattinson, and Siddle, who wasn't that young at that time, but still, and ended up retiring as the second highest run scorer with highest number of catches in Test cricket. So in the end, we get to the same question again. How good was Rahul Dravid? Personally, I held him in high regards. They were even higher than Sachin Tendulkar, and that's not just because of how he batted, because how dependable he was, because how every time you needed someone to be pragmatic, make sacrifices for the team, and lead, he was always there, and he put the team in front of anything else, which is the biggest attribute you can have as a team player. And even when he's retired, he coached the under 19 and India A team for 3 years, and I've heard nothing but great praise for him from the people who have been coached by him. He was one of the best to ever hold a cricket bat. And the only thing bad about him was the 2007 World Cup, but it was soon forgotten anyway, since we won a T20 World Cup in 2007 and then ended up winning the next World Cup anyway. So, how good was Rahul Dravid? One of the greats in ODIs and in Test matches. Cheers.